Okay, hello. So this is a quick demo for people who, maybe have an OPZ and know what they're doing to create 3D objects, but maybe don't know Unity and definitely don't know sort of the ins and outs of getting things together to make the packs for Unity. So there's very little information out there right now. So that's basically why I'm doing this. Um, if you know Unity, this is going to be like watching a child try and get through this because there's definitely things I don't understand about this at all. And I'm literally just bashing my way through it. And so, there, there's this stuff, on GitHub from these guys from Teenage Engineering, but it definitely assumes a comfortability or a amount of comfort with Unity that I don't have at all. Okay, so it's very strange, and basically I had to sort of bash my way through this. So that said, I'm going to just show how to trigger an animation real quick. Okay, so in the pack that you get with Unity, or no, sorry, with Video Lab is they give you a bunch of things. So the assets are really cool in that all the assets there's all kinds of cool little things and they all can go together. So this is my assets that come in with Video Lab, right? So there's all these nice little things, Midi Jack, okay, and Clack, which is that thing to help you wire up the MIDI, which we'll get to in a second, right? But you can also save your own assets into there, right? So, and you can drag and drop them in there, right? So this is like this cheap little boombox that I made real quick today, okay? And I can just drag and drop it in there. And the cool thing is if I go back to, I'm in Modo for this, and I make changes, the boombox will get changed. It's really cool. So it's not just importing it; it's linking to it, right? So, it's like After Effects with a Photoshop file, right? Okay, so so another thing you have here is a thing called Midi Jack, which is this tool that comes in here, right? So you get all these things that they'll show up as windows if you add in new modules, right? And you can add in, it seems like a billion things, Okay, so one of them is Midi Jack, and that comes along. And what that is a Midi Listener, okay? So if you see the little window here, you'll see what it's connected to. My OPZ is connected. This is a Windows machine, so it's connected, and it's spitting out MIDI right out of the OPZ right now, and you'll maybe hear it in the background. But so I'm on my drum track, and as I press, you see it float by. The problem with this is that when you get clock out of the OPZ constantly, it's this listener is basically just being bombarded with clock numbers, right? So if you go into the app, which I can't obviously show here, but I have the iPhone app. Okay, if I hit clock enable and I turn that off, that's in it's the MIDI setup, right? Now when I press a button, you'll see there it is on, and then there's the note off, right? So that's how you can get at those things. See, so that's okay. So this is, let's see, the first button, second button. Oops, sorry, no. So the first quote unquote white key, black key, white key. So they just count up. So 36, and I'm assuming that's velocity, right? So that's the number of the key. And I may be wrong. Once again, I don't. This is pretty confusing stuff. But anyway, so as you go along, there's all kind. You get all these MIDI numbers. Okay. So, but the problem is when you turn that off, that breaks the information for the sequencer, right? So I have to turn that back on, or this not trick or whatever you want to call it is not going to work, right? So I'm going to turn that back on, and you'll see right here a flood of. It'll actually just get rid of. Oops, come on. There it goes. All gone. So this is the clock coming in, right? A guy on Facebook told me about that. So, okay, it's pretty easy to use. Unity is deals with a lot of the same conventions. So you can grab lights and WE for rotation and R on your keyboard to do all these different things, and the lights are interactive like this. Okay, camera same way when you click on the camera. you actually get a little preview. So I'm gonna maybe move this over here, over there, go like that, just kind of frame it up. Okay, so that's a preview of how that's gonna run. Okay, so it's all modular, and you can put anything anywhere you like, which is great. Okay, so by default it comes on. I think the hierarchy was here. I think the project was down here. The thing that I opened was a thing called the animation window, right? And that gets you a timeline down here. Okay, so this is like your normal timeline, just like any other program, any other 3D program that you might be used to. Okay. And the scene basically is sort of set up with your main camera, okay? Meaning like, I guess I imagine some of this stuff could be set per camera. I guess I'm not entirely sure, but you can mess with your field of view. You see it, you see the preview down there, whatever. Okay. You can choose your background. Okay, I just put a black in here for some reason. In the real time, it shows this. Whatever you call it here, the light, a sky box or whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna lengthen that out. But so that's where you can mess with some of these things. And one of the really cool things is, if you don't know Unity, like I don't, like I said, is you can add in sort of video post style thing, real time video. Effects on top of this thing, and you add them in here, right? So they give you a few that come with the video lab, okay, and they're right here, Keynote image effects. You see all these crazy things. There's motion and ramps, and I haven't played with them all, but there's like digital glitches and stuff. But then there's a couple other ones. I think these are from Teenage Engineering themselves, right? So one of them is Halftone, okay, so I'll just turn that on, and to sort of test out your game, what you have this view. Okay, so these are my tabs, right? So I go there, and you see I get this is what the halftone is going to look like, right? And you can mess with it real time. It's pretty slick. Like the two angles freak me out. Let's see if there we go. I mean, it's trippy as hell, but it's pretty cool. So let's see, so 30, 30, 30. So now I just get it like a newspaper, black and white. It's pretty amazing. So if you went in and actually played this out, you would get this, and you can stack these on here. And I imagine after a while they just take a hit on your, whether the phone will play them or not, but whatever. So it's super cool. I mean, like, look at this one. Like, I don't even know what the hell's going on here. So 3 and 3 and 3. It's like a kaleidoscope, I suppose. Anyways, you can play with them, after the fact, but this is where you add those, okay, and they're real time, and they go in there. Okay, so the things that I opened up, like I said, were the animation window, okay, for the object. Oops, so I'm going to go back to scene. Oh, so while I'm in here, so this seems to be just a view of what the game will look like, not necessarily how it will behave like, or whatever you want to call it, game or whatever. Play is actually starts to compile and simulate the game, from what I can tell, right? So now we're actually in it, right? So the rest of the interface grays down, and if I had any animation, they'd be started, right? So that said, if I go back here and say I want to start getting these behaviors together, okay, so F on your keyboard zooms up objects, just like I think Maya behaves that way, and maybe the key on Cinema too. Anyways, okay, so what I'm going to do is, oops, I'll just recreate this. Okay, so one of the things that you need to do is create a clack MIDI source, or a Midi Jack in, right? And we do that by, oops, clicking there, right? And I got my OPZ connected. I'm going to say auto connect, and then I'm just going to rename that OPZ, which will make life a little easier. Okay, these other two I haven't messed with. I'm assuming auto connect is good. I'm going to say MIDI source dash OPZ. Okay, not OPZ, but OPZ. And it's not really a thing. It's in the scene, but it's not really in the scene. Okay. Now, So the next order of business is creating something to do when triggered, right? So one of the examples that they have here is when you get into animation, uh, is this. And like I said, this, you know, I think this makes a lot of assumptions on what you know about Unity. So this is a beginner's guide. So, you know, like I said, bear with me. I don't know shit about Unity. So if you click on an object, right? So we'll go here and we'll click on our boombox, okay? And we'll hit, we'll come down to our animator. Like I said, this is, you get this here, okay? And then I docked it down here so that it just, you know, makes sense to me. And it's pretty nice. It's got some nice curves and a dope sheet and all that. You start out in dope sheet mode or whatever. So you hit create, okay? And it's going to ask you where to save that. And I'm going to go back out to my assets and just call this boombox bouncy 1, okay? So it creates a physical asset, like right, oh, where'd it go? There it is, boombox, you know, blah, blah, blah. So if I go here and I select my boombox, okay, it's by default in, no, I guess it wasn't, sorry. I'm in, you know, like a auto key mode, right? So I'm going to go ahead a few frames, do a leap, and it supports your usual Control C and Control V, right? Boing, boing, boing. Okay, so, and like I said, it's good with this kind of stuff too. Okay, so Control C, Control V, boom, boing, 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 boing. Maybe a little much. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, it's just too much everything. Okay, that sucks too. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Okay, so what I've created here now is I have this asset, and you see you can create new clips, right? So in theory, you know, like it's sort of like an FBX file that has multiple takes in it. I'm assuming you can sort of layer these motions over and over, you know, to create all kinds of behaviors for stuff. Now, I have the slightest idea right now how you would trigger different ones, you know, like this is literally just one. Stuff's pretty damn complicated, and you know, I think the info is pretty light right now. So like there's a thing, sorry, this talks about how to sort of get it to sync with your, you know, beats per, you know, over time and everything like that. That's gotta, I don't really get that right now, so I'm not sort of dealing with that. I'm just literally just gonna sort of loop based on the sequence running, okay? So now that we have that, like I said, we have boombox leaping. You can actually get it to show that if you drag that in there, and it'll play. You know, actually looks really weird because it locks to the object. Okay, so it's really bizarre. Okay, so that said, I click my boombox. Notice since this is an FBX, it comes with a camera, directional light, and mesh, or the mesh. You know, so these cameras don't. They're just kind of phantom objects. But if you delete them, I think it complains about breaking the relative length to the file. So I don't think they're harming anything. So I've been leaving them there. Yeah, see there, it's like a null essentially, right? So yeah, those are both nothing. So I don't think it harms anything to leave them in there. So here's my mesh. So what's cool is so you can choose crazy materials. So let's put a material. Oh crap, that's weird. Look at that. Huh. Okay, well maybe not. Yeah, see, so you can put, like, that's kind of cool. It's actually some kind of a weird flaky material, or look at that, like a toon shader. I don't know if these will transfer over. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think it might. I know some of the more advanced generators and stuff don't, you know, they cause problems or whatever. So you don't want to do that. I mean, there's tons of stuff in here. Simple. Oh, that's cool. Ooh. I'm not sure what it looks like if you test it out here. Let's see. Where'd the camera go? Oh, main camera. Oh, no, it looks okay. Okay, so anyhow, so we have our animation. So I'm going to select my boombox object. Okay, so we have this animation in our assets. There it is. That's all great, right? So the next thing is the Animator Window, which is, I think it's sort of for chaining behaviors together. You know, like if you have a character, it could like turn and hit this, and if that happens, and blah 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 blah. You know, so you know, there's a lot that goes on here. But anyways, it's a window that you need to open right there. And I docked it here, so you go there. Okay, so capsule hop, you know, that's what I created here, and it's, for some reason, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but sometimes this is here and sometimes it's not, and you need to create it. I'm gonna say, since it is, I'm gonna, you know, be happy about that and just leave it alone, okay? But you can actually just drag this in here, right? So, like, if you had a library of these, I would imagine this is how you'd start building this stuff up, right? So, by default, it should, if I compile this, it should just loop this. So when there's one motion, yeah. So when there's one motion, it just doesn't, you know, and everything. So this is a way to create like ambient motion. Like, you know, I created like a ceiling fan style thing in a scene from yesterday. Like it just kind of like wow, 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 you know, and casted shadows down and everything. And it's kind of neat. So, you know, by default, that's what that does, right? So, okay, so if I go in here, yeah, see, sometimes it starts this view, right? Well, stuff's over here, right? You have to, I don't know if it responds to F. It does not respond to F. So, S or F? No, neither of those zooms work, right? So you gotta like find it, right? So I'm assuming this is like like a trigger, okay? So like on exit you do this, on entry you start doing this, and then God knows what this thing does, right? So by default you the docs say to turn this to 0, so that meaning like no speed, like just sit there, okay. And then okay, so we've created our MIDI source in, okay, which is our OPZ. Our clock is on, which you gotta have, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on. Hold on, let me push the button. Yeah, see, so it just goes past it, okay. So we've got that. This is our bounce, okay. So the next thing we need to do is come over to the patcher, and I'll just redo this. So this is what you end up with, right? So you go create. Right click and create input, MIDI, and sequencer input, right? So all you got to do is say, there's your MIDI source, your OPZ, right? Click. Okay, that's connected up. You're going to use the accumulator to take the start, which I guess just gets things going, and step. I guess step would just be something that keeps going and going. So as long as it's running, this is on, and then this is probably number out. I haven't found a good way to sort of like monitor these things. I tried to kick it to the console, but you get a bunch of whole numbers and stuff like that, and I was hoping to make something on the screen, but I haven't figured it out yet. So okay, so the next thing is conversion accumulator. Okay, so we take our reset and we take our start into the reset, and we take our step into the data. All right, and then we do an animator out, which was animation. No, sorry, conversion. Yeah, damn it. No, yeah. Component, that is animator out, right? So I'm assuming that's talking to this thing, right? So I mean, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bolt that together. So this value comes out of the accumulator that takes the start and the step, and I don't know, accumulates them apparently. And so we dump that into normalized time, and what that's gonna do is just play through it as it goes, right? So I'm just gonna delete this and hope I didn't need it. So we take that, normalized time. It's always nice to have like these little node based thingy, it just makes more sense. So okay, so animator out, we bolt that to the boombox, and I think that's all we have to do. Okay, so if we go back to our scene and we hit compile, or whatever that is, play essentially, right? Sometimes this is on pause by default. It was doing that yesterday, but it's not doing that for me today. So, and I hit play, and it's basically triggering that animation. Pretty neat. So, oops. So you can actually see it. Play, 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 right? Boom, boom, oops, game. And there it goes. Okay, so so it's telling the sequencer, okay, dumping that in there, accumulating, and just moving it, right? And you know, so it's triggering it. So I don't think, let me turn that off. Jesus. Okay. So, I don't think it's doing any, this is literally just a very, 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 very basic, you know, how to wire these things up. But if you don't understand Unity, like I said, this is, it's confusing, and it's not. Like I said, I mean, I bet you I made, 20 mistakes that somebody who uses this all day is cracking up about. But if you don't know this thing, it's kind of strange. I mean, it's very cool. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do, because you can wire this to just about anything. Like as these numbers come out of the sequencer, the color could be cycling, it could be doing all kinds of stuff. But I think it's interesting in that you can do, like another good example of animating is if I go back to the basic scene and I hit my camera, okay, and I go down to my animator, it's still, like you don't have to do everything outside of the program. You can sort of do interesting things while you're in here. Like for instance, like if I go here and I take my camera, or I've selected my camera, I hit create an animation. So I'm just going to call it camera. Damn it. Camera zoom 001, right? And then I zoom. I go, maybe I start here. Okay. Oops. I start here. Maybe back out there. Then in. Then, okay, and C, B. So that's 1 second of time, I'm assuming. Like, I don't think there's you don't really have frame rates here, I don't think, because, in theory, you can have as many frames as your computer will spit out, and that's a good thing, right? So, I don't really know what, I'm assuming we're just looking at time. 30, 50, or is that it can't be a minute. Hell, I don't know, to be honest with you. I think a second might be busted up into 60 ticks of maybe it's sort of 60 frames a second. I don't know. It's probably here somewhere. So, okay, so we've got this animation, and like I said, since this is the only object on this, or sorry, only motion on this thing, or for this thing, even though I could have a whole bunch of them right here, when I compile, it's gonna do. Yeah, so that looks like about a second, right? So I turn it back on, and there we go. So it's super cool. So, and then, and this is all done with just the patcher that comes. This is clack, right? So this is all just done with that. Let me turn that off again. But the zoom keeps going on. It's kind of freaky. So I would assume that's what that is. This is a second. This is talking about a second, and you're for animators, this is free of frames per second. It's just as fast as you can draw the thing, which I don't know, is kind of cool, unless you wanted to control that. So you can make a decent amount of stuff in here. So yeah. So the things that don't come up stock that are right here are animation, Animator, which now I've docked here, and I docked this down there. This is your layer manager, for lack of a better term, or just your object manager, and then this is your properties over there. So how these things get wired up is it's a little interesting. Now how the rest of it is happens is there's input MIDI for knobs, notes, and Video Lab gives you specific stuff for the OPZ, right? So if I click this, and my source is always this guy. So this will actually get the values off of the knobs on the OPZ, right? So you can bolt those to whatever you want. So there's a ton that can be done. I mean, I haven't this, like I said, I haven't the slightest idea how you would branch and maybe trigger a hop here and a jump there, and all that stuff. Hopefully people start sharing some of those things. Whoops. Because there's a lot here, and I think with just some basic things thought are sort of shared out, just how to create a branching system, and like if you had those basic sort of tools that said this is how some of this stuff gets put together, you could take those people's code and make some really great stuff without just basically just having to make the fun stuff and not bash through trying to figure out what exactly some of these conversions, or some of the more I don't know, I guess most of these make decent sense. Switching, there is a random number generator in here somewhere too, so I don't know. But anyhow, so like I said, this is literally, I don't want to hear any complaints about I don't know Unity. Yeah, I know I don't know Unity. I'll be the first to admit it. So save your comments. But if you don't, if you don't know this like me, this was kind of hard won knowledge from reading this yesterday, because it just is a little. Like I said, I mean, I looked for the animation window versus the animator for a ton of for a lot of time, and that's the difference between this is your animation time slider and this is your animator, which wires things up. So yeah, it's not, like I said, I think whoever wrote this messes with Unity all day and everything, and it's like, yeah, moron, open your animator, like, yeah, great, but I don't know what that means, so hopefully this is valuable for somebody. I mean, I think it's cool that it's working. It's amazing to see, and it's amazing to see how relatively easy it is to sort of start getting things together and just, being creative with it versus bashing through it. So I think that's most of it. Remember your Midi Jack. Remember the clock on the OPZ app. Turn that off to try and find out what that is. There's more information out there already about like the numbers that come in from the knobs and all that stuff. So yeah, you can look that stuff up. Like, that's knobs, and then notes. Notes obviously come in from the keys, right? So you go like this, and source. I don't know if you want. I mean, my idea right out of the gate is to try and create take note input. It seems to me that the bass drum comes in on channel 1, and then just down the line, this is your snare, this is your cymbal, this is whatever the hell the next one is. Oh no, sorry, yeah, no, snare, cymbal, sample, etc., etc. Although I saw a weird number come in. 6 was not right yesterday, which was very strange when I was using a Midi Listener. So that was weird. But anyway, so I mean, I'm assuming that if you do this and then you do this, if somebody understands this down, say so in the comments. But if I take this out and I'm doing one, only triggers coming out of the bass would do, would actually do anything, right? So I'm assuming you could sort of take one of these, and a bunch of them, and create bass, a thing that's doing stuff based on bass, doing something else based on treble, or sorry, snare, and so on and so forth, right? And that's kind of what I was hoping to do with this, whereas the whole thing hops based on the sequence, if it's moving, but then bass would make these guys go boop boop boop, and I don't know, figure something else out, and just kind of keep going and build this out a little more into something way better than this rather shit basics, start model, Okay, I think that's about it right now. Like I said, I mean, I fully understand that this is super basic, but hopefully it helps some other people confused by this a lot. It took a few hours yesterday to figure out, because it's kind of tough. Okay, so hierarchy, project, patcher, talked about that, talked about this, and talked about effects and stuff like that. Yep, I think that's it. So, like I said, be merciful. This is just for people who don't know this, and but hopefully it helps people in the exact same scenario. You can create content, but you don't understand the rest of this. So if you take this and use 96's video, it'll I could take this and dump this into the OPZ, and it would actually do this dumb little thing that it does right now. But it could do it, so that's pretty cool. Oh, see, it started out paused again, right? So there it goes. So anyways, that's a start. Hope to learn a lot more about this. It's pretty slick, but it's a little confusing. Whoop. It stops when you go off. Okay. Thanks.